Oh, we're live. Yes? Yes. We're live. Hi, everybody. Jill Simonian here. Good morning. We are live on Facebook and YouTube on PragerU's channels, Facebook and YouTube. Today's Tuesday, November 19th, 2024. I'm Jill Simonian with PragerU Kids. Drop a comment and let me know what state you're in. It's been a minute since I went live. It's been several weeks, actually. So hi, if you're new here. I typically say hello on Facebook and YouTube for PragerU as a welcome, as an invitation for parents to tell me what state you're from, what's going on in your neck of the woods. Drop a comment. Let me know what state you're watching or listening in. There we are. I'm following along on Facebook right here. It's a lot easier for me to follow on Facebook. As most of you know, these parent alerts talk about important topics for parents and education. I'm a mom of two kids, one teenager, one preteen. I'm one of the co-creators of PragerU here. I'm one of the co-creators of PragerU Kids. And we always invite you to subscribe, if you haven't already, to PragerUKids.com so that you can stay informed with all of the free tools and resources you need to educate your children, kindergarten through 12th grade, in our American values, our history, financial literacy, civics, cultural literacy, and more. Subscribe to PragerUKids.com for tools to teach what should be taught. We're going to get into this headline in a moment, but I want to see if there are any comments regarding what state you're from. Not yet? All right, drop a comment. Let me know what state you're from. Today's headline, if many of you have seen it, discussing the potential disbanding of the Department of Education. Now, this topic is admittedly a bit of a surprise. I was not planning on talking about this today, okay? I was planning on saying, wow, as a mom, Thanksgiving is next week, and have you taught your kids everything we need to know about the foundation of our country, and have you told them the Thanksgiving story if they're little, and I was going to encourage you to visit us at PragerU Kids to get all of the videos that are really fun and entertaining and educational about Thanksgiving, about the pilgrims who came to this land, about the Native Americans who lived on this land, all of those things, but I moved away from that this morning because I have seen nonstop in my feeds, Instagram and on X, headlines discussing the potential disbanding of the Department of Education. And before I toss it to the full screen of the op-ed that I'm interested to share with you today, I just want to, preface this conversation by saying I'm a mom. I'm a regular mom. Okay. I come from a family of educators. My sister, my mom, my grandma, all incredible teachers who loved and currently love this country and believe in education. And I used to be a huge cheerleader of public education in all of its forms. Since learning a little bit more about it, particularly since the lockdowns in 2020, I've changed my opinions about a lot of things because I've learned a lot of things that are frankly very unsettling and disheartening about our education system. So when I see very contentious conversations back and forth between teachers and parents online and even in real life regarding the possible dismantling of our Department of Education, I, as a mom, also have questions because I'm trying to educate myself about what that would look like, what that would mean, what would be the pros, what would be the cons. And today, this morning, I said it was a surprise that I was going to be discussing this, but it truly is. This morning, I saw this op-ed on foxnews.com, and we can go ahead and toss to the headline now. And incidentally, it was written by a woman, a teacher, educator by the name of Rebecca Friedrichs, who incidentally I have had the great joy to have interviewed on one of my past Parent Alert videos. She and I had a whole conversation about what education used to be, how it was the foundation of education from America's early days, what it has evolved or arguably devolved into now. Rebecca Friedrichs was famous for bringing legal action against some of the most powerful teacher unions in the country decades ago, or actually maybe nearly a decade ago, and winning. And we have a great conversation on PragerU.com/parentalert. She has great insight, and she was really sounding the alarm on the, the modern day problems of our education system, thanks to, unfortunately, the teachers' unions. She was sounding the alarm decades ago, and just now, many of us parents are, of course, waking up. So anyway, this op-ed on FoxNews.com was written by Rebecca Friedrichs, and being a parent interested in this, in these recent headlines, I read it, and I wanted to bring to you her perspective. I'm not necessarily, this isn't necessarily an endorsement. This is merely a share of what this educator has said about our education system. So she's saying that the closing of the education department would open a bright future for students. And we have this article pulled up on the screen right now if you are watching. But I'm going to read you a little bit of Rebecca's words because I did find them interesting. She says, quote, "America's founders never intended for us to have a national Department of Education. They specifically did not want the government intruding into education. They knew such overreach would lead to the destruction of our schools and our nation, and we now have modern proof that they were right." So again, these are the words of Rebecca Friedrichs. And I want to unpack that a little bit because I don't necessarily think she's wrong. If we look at what's going on with American education now, the achievement gaps are widening. Children, students are not proficient in math, reading. I think the last report that I read was that less than 1/3 of 8th graders had a basic understanding of civics, how our system of government works. I did find some things, America's report card, if you will, and these numbers are from the Program of International Student Assessment 2022. And for math, the U.S. ranks 28 out of 37 OECD countries. And I'll break down if you don't. I did not know what OECD meant, but OECD countries means the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, is a unique forum where the governments of 37 democracies with market-based economies collaborate to develop policy standards to promote sustainable economic growth. So basically, it's this group of democratic countries that we are included with, and the United States in math ranks 28 out of 37 of these countries. In science, we rank 12 out of 37, and in reading, we are 6 out of 37. So in terms of how America is doing educationally, I can't say that we're winning. In Rebecca's article, and you can go ahead and read this article on your own. If you go to foxnews.com, you can go ahead and Google plans to close education department opens up a bright future for students. The op-ed is by Rebecca Friedrichs, and I'm sharing this with you because I'm curious to know what you think about closing the Department of Education, whether you're a parent, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a grandparent. I'm curious to know your thoughts. You can drop them in the comments if you're on Facebook and YouTube right now or after the fact. In Rebecca's article, she also cites that America has 45 to 65 million functional illiterates. Many of these high school graduates struggle to read well enough to manage their daily lives. And that's because our schools are failing students. Our test scores, Rebecca continues to say, reveal tragic truth showing that 37% of fourth graders are below the NEAP's basic achievement level, and only 33% are at or above proficient. Test scores have declined, Rebecca asserts, since teachers' unions and the federal government got involved with schools. So, is it crazy to want to aim to get our schools back to operating on local levels? Because essentially that's what dismantling the Department of Education would enable. And again, I'm literally educating myself about this right now. So I'm not here to say, yes, we should do it, or no, we shouldn't. I want to hear what you think. I also want to share with you a little bit of background about the Department of Education and teachers' unions. And this is all in Rebecca's article. So she says that the Department of Education might be on the chopping block, and the so-called teachers' unions got it to the position that it is now in to possibly be on that chopping block. And Rebecca tells this little story in her op-ed talking about it all started in 1867 when President Andrew Johnson, at the behest of the Commissioner of Education and the National Education Association, the NEA, signed legislation to start a national Department of Education to collect data on our schools at the time. And at that time, the department was grouped with other federal departments. So this happening then allowed the NEA to grow in influence and to have power over a large educational institution, which it wasn't that way before. Slowly but surely, in this article, it states the NEA successfully implemented politically driven agendas, which included the removal of phonics instruction. It included the removal of morality, Western civilization, the classics, and also enabled many other destructive changes. The NEA aggressively pushed for all teachers to be unionized too, even though teachers did not ask for their representation. And then she goes on to say in 1976, the NEA endorsed Democrat Jimmy Carter for president. And then when Carter was elected, his thank you gift to the NEA was an independent National Department of Education, including a cabinet position. So Rebecca attests here that this situation, which happened, 40 years ago, set a dangerous precedent of educational organizations meddling in politics so that they could gain power and that they could gain influence. And she states that our nation's founders pretty much forbade federal influence in education. Our nation's founders, and the more I read about this, the more I learn that all evidence certainly points to this. Our founders knew that education had to be excellent and moral so that citizens could grow to learn to self-govern. We the people, right? That's what we're about. We're the people. Our educational institutions were meant to function at a local level so that children could understand the foundations of our republic so that they could protect the republic. And this is why the founders believed that education was the responsibility of the local townspeople, and it should, from the start, be locally controlled and locally supported and locally, evolving on a local level. Parents ran the schools, and I know this is way back when. I know things are different now, but way back when, parents ran the schools. Parents, the community, hired the teachers. They oversaw the curriculum development. They oversaw and were heavily involved in what their children were learning, how their children were learning. And now we see that the federal government and special interest groups have overtaken that at a very large level. So our schools are no longer locally controlled. And in fact, the article goes on to say between the late 1800s and 1930, before the teacher unions intruded, was when 80% of our school funding was from local sources. Excuse me, I have a tickle in my throat. I got to drink water every so often. 20% was from state sources and 0 was from the federal government. That was during a time when American students were actually thriving and our education system was at the top of the food chain, so to speak. So things have changed a lot. Things have changed a lot. If we take big government out of managing education, perhaps we can get back to that model of local control, of educating children so that parents are involved. I don't necessarily oppose a return to power for families and for local schools so that better decisions can be made for students at the local level. With 40 years of this Department of Education, our achievement gaps have gotten worse. They've widened. We know now through, certain transparency efforts that the teacher unions have hijacked our education system, injecting politics and activism into our schools. We know that the teacher unions promoted to keep schools closed and endorsed the lockdowns from 2020 and in some states and cases through 2022. So our question is, does the Department of Education contribute to bettering education? And from what I found, and please leave the comments and tell me if you dispute these findings or if you, just flat out disagree with me. We welcome freedom of speech here. As a mom and as parents, I think it behooves all of us to educate ourselves and to really talk about these things. But from what I found, only 9% of spending for K through 12 education nationally comes from the federal government. And a federal agency in Washington dictating how education should be done locally, I don't know if that makes sense anymore. Because we know that big agencies are not capable to sufficiently educate students at the local level with knowledge. I've always stood by the perspective that educational freedom is a good thing. If we have freedom at the local level, that means we have more parental rights. We have more ability to honor and inspire meritocracy and excellence in schools. Without teacher unions controlling a huge Department of Education, maybe special interests, politicized interests, activist-driven interests won't have authority about what our kids are learning in schools. And teaching what should be taught is our foundation for starting PragerU Kids. We have to teach what should be taught in schools. And it's funny, just for fun, I'm going to share with you now. Because, I'll always say that PragerU Kids, we've created, this is our why for creating PragerU Kids so that parents could harness control over what kids should be taught, over the things that are perhaps missing in public and many private schools now. We're missing values of meritocracy in teaching students, these values. We're missing teaching good character traits. And, just for fun, I'm going to show you an episode that we made on one of our shows, Craftery, about the beginning of schools. Because, when we talk about schools and how they were meant to function, I always like to share some of the things that we find. So let's just take a look at this Craftery. This is for kindergarten through second grade, but let's just take a look at the foundation of how schools were supposed to function, just for fun. And we can roll the sound up. And I think I'll be able to talk with the sound too. Yes. Let's take a listen.
Different sizes. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be fun. Glue.
So this is a Craftery episode teaching the history of schools, and I was making a book cover for the kids.
This is really
it's an
fun to
activity
do
for the kids
at the
to make a
beginning
book cover.
of a school year to protect your new textbooks.
And we had
a
a
want
little
to take good care of them,
about
right?
how schools start.
Right.
Let's see. There we go. You can see some of the fun of the episode.
Oh, missed a spot. We're not done yet. During the 1600s, 1700s, and 1800s, American schools used the Bible as a textbook. Students often learned their ABCs with Bible names, like A is for Adam, B is for Boaz, C is for Caleb. Many schools even started the day with a prayer and a Bible reading. America's founding fathers wanted people in America to be educated with morals and religion because the United States was created as a republic. And in a republic, power comes from the people. It was important for citizens to be smart and know the difference between right and wrong in order to have a great country. And this is still very important.
It still is.
You know what else is important?
Okay, that's good. We can go ahead.
Decorating this.
There we go. Okay, so again, that kind of speaks to what I was saying earlier about how the foundation, if you're looking at the video right now, I have a crazy frozen look on my face on the video, but yeah, hopefully we're not seeing that on air. So anyways, my point is that I just wanted to show you that just as a fun little parent-to-parent thing about how our schools started. That was one of our shows, Craftery, for kindergarten through second grade, although third and fourth grade and fifth grade kids also sometimes watch that show. I get DMs from, parents of sixth graders actually saying, oh, my kids love Craftery because they learn a lot about the foundation of America while we do a fun craft. So those are the types of things that we have on PragerU Kids. But I wanted to show you that clip, parent to parent, because even though the kids might not understand everything that's included in there, us parents can understand that when the foundation of our schools and nation began with the Bible, that should be something that is still relevant today. And when we look at schools today, when we look at how these big federal agencies are essentially controlling what's going on at the local level, a lot of things are missing in our schools. Morals. We have schools now that are refusing to even honor a mention or a share of the 10 Commandments. What else is missing in schools? Teaching good character. Teaching good character is now replaced by backwards things such as restorative practices, where there's no incentive for kids to do the right thing because in restorative practices, no one's right and no one's wrong. What else is missing in schools? Resilience and perseverance, getting through something difficult during the day. Too many schools now are operating with allowing kids to go to safe rooms and safe spaces and wellness centers. What else is lacking? Cultural literacy. Children are not being taught the classic stories that they should be taught so that we all have shared knowledge as Americans as we learn and go through school. There's a lack of knowledge and life skills that are, frankly, excluded from most schools now. Schools are not teaching civics. They're not teaching financial literacy. We see this in the test scores. And all of these things that are lacking are, unfortunately, arguably, a product of having a school system that is not locally controlled. These are just observations that I make. And again, this is why we created PragerUKids.com, because we parents need the resources. As a mom, I did not know what my kids were missing. I didn't even know where to start. I didn't even know that American values were a thing that should have been taught to students from kindergarten up. Responsibility, hard work, perseverance, resilience, equality under God. These are all things that used to be taught in schools, used to be included in schools, but have been pushed aside because of the way, unfortunate way, our education system has devolved, with teachers' unions leading the charge and controlling the curriculum, and now, as we've seen in recent years, pushing parents aside, literally excluding parents from the equation of what it takes to educate children. So I have right now pulled up PragerUKids.com on our screen if you're watching. I'm going to go ahead and I want to scroll down. I always like to tell you guys, we've got 11 different series. Jace, if you can just scroll through just to show these 11 different series that we have. These consist of more than 800 total videos, lesson plans, and worksheets. These are all standards aligned. Okay, standards aligned, grade level aligned, financial literacy, civics, biographies, just out of curiosity, go ahead and click on Leo and Layla, Jace, and let's go to, okay, now scroll down. Look at all the, oh yeah, happy Thanksgiving. There's a little pop-up that comes up. Go ahead and scroll down, and I just want you to take a look at all of these episodes. How many episodes there are. Off the top of my head, I don't know how many episodes of Leo and Layla, but Leo and Layla is a animated show that travels back in time. A brother and sister, Leo and Layla, they travel back in time. They go to different times in history. They meet biblical historical figures. They meet historical figures who contributed to the founding of America, who contributed to different industries in America. It's a biographical series. Sorry, I'm getting ready to cough. It's a biographical series that teaches children about history through different important figures from all walks of life. Let's go back, Jace, and I want to click now to a different series. Leo and Layla is for 3rd through 5th grade. I want to click through to Around the World. Let's go to Around the World. There we go. Around the World is a book series and also a video series that talks about different geopolitical situations around the world. And it's specifically made for junior high students. It talks about different issues that are happening, freedom of speech, communism, difficult topics in an age-appropriate way that takes junior high students and drops them into a different part of the world so that they can see the difference between America and other parts of the world. Let's go back now to, I want to showcase another one. Obviously, let's go to Unboxed USA. I just want to give you a brief scroll down. Now, this is one of my recent shows. Unboxed USA is about, okay, so we have about how many episodes are there? 15, yeah? 15 episodes that are released. Unboxed USA is a series that honors the true diversity of America by essentially teaching students, kindergarten through 5th grade, why each state is unique and important in our country. This is sort of, beginning type education about federalism and the distribution of power throughout our country and how the states work together and how locally each state is very important in adding to the fabric of our country, economically, geographically, everything. Let's go back now, and just for kicks, let's go to Craftery, because Craftery, surprise, surprise, has a lot of Thanksgiving content. So Thanksgiving is a perfect time to teach your kids what should be taught. Let's scroll down and see how many episodes. We got a lot here. Craftery is crafts plus history. So here's a fun fact. Crafts are not something that I did a lot as a mother. However, my own children, when they were younger, loved to watch videos all about crafts. So in this series, we teach kids a history lesson, and while teaching them a little craft. And it's a way for them to learn about some of the topics that are not being taught in schools, the foundation of our country. We have a lot of episodes here speaking to Thanksgiving. We have a great episode called The Thankful Jar that really teaches kids about gratitude, and that, that gratitude is one of the values that give us a happy life, that make us unique as Americans, that we can be grateful for this country that we live in. So this is just a little smattering of all of our PragerU Kids shows. And we can return to the PragerUKids.com webpage now, just so you can visit this page, PragerUKids.com, subscribe for free. You will get once or twice a week free videos, worksheets, lesson plans to give you the tools as a parent for what should be taught. I'm having to drink a lot of water, so I'm going to wrap up right now. But go ahead and subscribe to PragerUKids.com so that you can share in our values to pass on to your own children or your students at school. I want to see, I'm trying to scroll and see if there's any comments here. Let's see, regarding our hot topic headline, dismantling the Department of Education. Get the federal government out of education. Let the states decide what's best for their kids. Charter schools are necessary. That comment is from Donald. Donald, we don't disagree with you, or I'll speak personally. I don't disagree with you with letting the states decide what works for the citizens in their state, for what works best for educating the children in that state. And that's one of the reasons too that, PragerU Kids is pursuing partnerships with states, so that our content, videos and books and worksheets and lesson plans can be included in certain states, and cannot be they can be included as a non-mandatory supplemental materials should teachers see fit. We've now forged partnerships with 10 different states: Idaho, Arizona, Montana, Louisiana, Texas, Florida, Oklahoma, New Hampshire. Is that it? Did I say 10? I think so. Let's see. I'm scrolling these comments. Let's see, from Mark. I'm just reading these at random. Putting education in the hands of state and local governments has not made any difference in education quality, regardless of Fed standards. If we kill the U.S. Department of Education, then we kill the federal funds to the state and local entities, and those taxes will rise. But again, the school districts are nothing to get excited about in terms of effectiveness and efficiency. States aren't either. David. Comment from David: the Department of Education is a contributing factor in our weak standing that you cited. NEA is another. Local control is key to returning education to higher standards. And then from Todd: propaganda Prager, brainwashing idiots one video at a time. Oh, Todd, I don't agree with you, but I will always support your ability to say it in the name of freedom of speech. It's always fun to read comments. We welcome your comments, whether or not we agree with them. But that's it. Leave comments about what your thoughts are as a parent or a teacher for dismantling the Department of Education. If you're just tuning into this live, we sort of unpacked an article that I found in the name of educating myself as a mom regarding all of this chatter for dismantling the Department of Education. And I also hope that you find useful our PragerU Kids content to equip you as a parent, to give you the tools that you need to teach what is not being taught in schools anymore and what should be taught. That was our why for creating PragerU Kids, to give power and authority and agency back to us parents, so that we can educate our kids to know how our republic was established and how to protect it and defend it as a constitutional republic. That said, we always thank you for your generous support. We cannot do any of this without you. If you haven't already, subscribe to PragerUKids.com and leave your comments. And hopefully I will be able to respond to them in a way that makes all of us happy. See you guys next time. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.